Good afternoon, everybody. We are here on the 23rd episode of Overdose and Chill Live. This week, we've switched up a little bit, and we'll be doing what we're calling a live audit with actionable insights with Mike here from Scratch Premium Pet Food. So welcome to Overdose and Chill. We're also joined by Jason and Vincent from the Overdose crew, who will be digging into the analytics and giving us all a bit of an education on what they found as they dug through the website and analytics over the past couple of weeks. So welcome. I understand what you're doing from. You are a native Aussie, but you're joining us from somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, over in Amsterdam at the moment until they'll let me back in the country.
Is that what it is? You can't return right now.
It's sort of like there's people actually need to get home, so I'll sort of wait until everyone gets home for Christmas, and then I'll head back in January or Feb, I hope.
There's certainly worse places to be than Amsterdam, and it's absolutely a beautiful place to be during the holiday.
I know, especially with no tourists.
Unfortunately, and no tourists, right? So, I'd love to hear a bit before we get into the actual analytics piece of this, a bit about you, your journey. I've done some reading, and it's a fascinating switch you've done from sort of the fashion apparel world into the premium pet food world. So if you could talk about yourself and then sort of introduce the brand and talk to us a bit about what you're trying to achieve and many of the struggles you've been having to achieve those goals.
Yeah, sure. So my brand is called Scratch. Myself and my business partner, Doug, we started it 2.5 years ago now, or just a fraction over two years ago that it actually launched the market. And I'd spent probably a good 8 or so years in marketing, either, writing. Originally it was designing, developing blogs for people, and that turned into expanding some blogs into e-commerce sites. I actually met Jason back in the day. We had an e-commerce focused agency in Melbourne called Online Store Guys that we did some really good stuff with, and then I got further involved with some fashion brands. Some of those actually were in the fashion industry. Yeah, so, those fashion brands were doing some pretty significant business, growing into international markets, and so I ended up getting further into that fashion industry, and really the business side of it really interested me. So I went in-house for a few years at a group of fashion brands up in Sydney that ran two fashion brands, one that was 10 years old, one that was getting off the ground, and then also had a sneaker store as well, so a reseller of all these other brands. I guess through that, I guess I can sort of claim myself as a fashion guy, but don't dress like it, for sure. And then I somewhere along the line, I had the idea for a dog food company that you could trust. So at the time, my dog Brandy, beautiful Cocker Spaniel, she was getting a lot slower, getting massive lumps. She'd been, I guess, for over 5 years, sort of been getting all these big lumps over her body, and I sort of started thinking a little bit more about her health. It had always been something that just sort of fed what the family had always fed her, but my parents were going through some stuff themselves. So it was just on my radar. And then once you get online searching for dog food, and you sort of just like, what is this world? And you go to a pet food store and there's 50 things and the 50 options on the shelf, and they all say various vague things, and they've all got a dog running through a field and celebrity vet, and it's just impossible to work out whether it was actually healthy. So I ended up had a weekend off where I just Googled everything, and I had a friend who could get me some IBIS reports. So I just tried to understand how dog food worked. It was one of those things. It was like, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but I don't trust the brands. And then I learned that it was the whole industry was unregulated in Australia, or self-regulated, and that was optional. And that there's all sorts of incredibly dodgy things that the industry does to mislead.
I definitely grew up with a dog, and as you said, it was dog food, right? There were, at least in the US, there were two brands. It was Pedigree and Alpo, and that's all.
Yeah, you just pop something out of a can, it wobbles around a bit, and the dog loves it.
Thought to, as most people didn't really give any thought to sort of pet nutrition. It was just, you got the food and you fed your dog. And I now have another dog, and it's overwhelming at times what's out there. And we had a dog trainer come, and as she walked us through what was good and what was bad, she talked us through how she literally cooks meals for 3 dogs every day on her stove in her kitchen. She prepares freshly made meals for her dog, and it's interesting how far we've all come in the past 30 years with how we care for pets. So,
yeah, for sure.
Really fascinating.
It's a dog's world.
It's a dog's world. So you've launched the site. I think you guys are on WordPress and WooCommerce as a platform.
Yeah. Our business model is direct on subscription. So you sign up, you enter some information about your dog, and we sort of use that to calculate how much food they would need based on age, weight, activity level, body shape, and also which of it, depending on which recipe someone chooses, different ingredients metabolize different energy. Just like you could eat a kilo of cheeseburgers and you get completely different amount of energy and different nutrients out of it than you would a kilo of broccoli. So the same thing with dog food. So we calculate a personalized feeding plan, and then once you sign up, you might be if you've got a little Chihuahua, it might be a box of Scratch every 95 days. If you've got a Bernese Mountain Dog, it might be every 17 days. So, and then of course you can customize it to yourself. But essentially, we're a subscription only, direct to consumer.
Okay, excellent. And for anyone who is in the audience watching, by all means, please drop any questions you've got in the chat, whether they're for Mike with regard to pets and pet food, or Jason and Vincent with regard to digital marketing and SEO. So I guess with that, maybe I will kick it over and then start talking through. And by all means, I'll let you guys engage. I'll disappear for a bit to let you guys take the stage here. And as questions come in, I might ping Jason or Vincent and pop them up on the screen. So, or for you for that matter, Mike, so you can answer those questions that pop in. So really appreciate you joining us. And with that, I will turn it over to Jason. If you could just introduce yourself as you get into it, and then Vincent, when we get to you, do the same as well, please.
Cool.
Thanks very much, guys.
All right. So my name is Jason. I am the Chief Search Officer for Overdose Digital globally. And first of all, thank you, Mike, for handing over the keys to Google Search Console and Google Analytics. To be honest, I did not find anything alarming. It was quite boring looking through your Google Search Console. Everything is like squeaky clean, which is really good. But I did dig a little bit deeper, and I did unearth some opportunities for Scratch. So as I was looking through the website and understanding the brand, I noticed that you guys have a separate brand called Off the Leash, which is a separate entity. I don't know if that was deliberately done as a separate entity. But from an SEO perspective, as you might know, having two separate entities splits your SEO value. From what I can see, Scratch has about 147 different referring domains or different links pointing to the website for Scratch, and Off the Leash has 170 different referring domains pointing to it. So I think if you were to consider merging both of them, you will have a much stronger entity that will give you, likelihood of you ranking better would be much higher there. So, but I think there's some business decisions as to why you did it as a separate entity, right? So that's the first thing I've noticed. Second thing is kudos getting Mick Fanning to invest in the business. I think he's a powerhouse. His authority is massive. So I think anything that you can do to leverage him more would be ideal. So one of the first things is when I search Scratch pet food, you're not in a knowledge graph. So when I say knowledge graph, it's either having yourself appear within the Google My Business section on the side of the Google SERPs, or having yourself featured as within Wikipedia. So I think you have enough press and enough backing from people like Mick Fanning to warrant having a wiki page. So maybe start researching and start getting the team writing up a wiki page for Scratch, and then having it linked from Mick Fanning's page to your page will help you establish what we call knowledge graph. Now, the quickest way of getting yourself registered in Google's knowledge panel or knowledge graph is to get a Google My Business listing for your headquarters in Collingwood. You can do that without revealing your full address, just to get the brand out there. And Google My Business is actually quite powerful now. It has the ability to give you the opportunity to feature products. You can link up your product feed into the Google My Business platform. And also the Google Posts section is quite powerful. It has a really good visibility when someone searches for Scratch pet food. So it's like an additional space for you to have a free advertising, essentially. Your WordPress setup for Scratch pet food, I could not fault it. It's actually quite good. It's very difficult to break WordPress and Yoast, because it's actually quite good how they set it all up and how it all syncs up together. I did notice that there are some additional schema tags that you could implement just to boost up the site a little bit. The first thing is the website's missing organizational schema. So something about your business, what's your official logo, your official social profiles.
Okay.
I believe that is part of the Yoast platform as well, or the Yoast app. Just make sure that you fill those details in. It's just going to give help Google understand that, hey, this Facebook page, this Instagram page, this Pinterest page is all part of Scratch. It's part of the same organization.
Right,
Just
okay.
help Google to sync it all up. Your content on the site is super awesome. Every single page has a very robust FAQ section. I would consider also including what we call FAQ schema tags. So sometimes when you search for something related to a product or a service, you will notice that the SERP listing is enriched by another drop-down underneath the main listing that expands and contracts. Yeah, so I think you should
push
consider,
all the organic search results.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you should consider marking up your FAQ sections with schema tags, just so we can try and trigger some rich snippets. Again, we're trying to increase your I guess real estate when you're actually ranking for a keyword there. Now, Scratch is in a very interesting space. So you're competing with all the big retailers, who have thousands and thousands of product SKUs. So I think ranking for the super generic keywords like dog food, dry dog food, is going to be quite competitive. So I can see how you guys have implemented in your footer. You have all your dog, grain-free dog food, puppy, best puppy dog food, all those different landing pages that you created. I think that's really good. Continue to do that. So where you have over-indexed, where you are under-indexing at the moment is the product depth. But I think you've, I guess, reversed that by investing more in content and in the brand story. One of your best performing pages is the compare dog food page. I think if you continue to invest more in expanding the content and refreshing the content on a yearly basis or quarterly basis, and then pushing it out to socials, having a good PR story to talk about the dog food industry, I think that's going to get you a lot of links and exposure moving forward there. Now, back to the technical aspects of the site. Like I said, I could not follow the implementation of WordPress, of Scratch. Page speed is good. It's average. So it's definitely not slow. I can see a lot of best practices have been implemented on the site. Nice use of Cloudflare there that you've implemented. I think there's a lot more opportunities. So there's this little app called Flying Pages. If you were to install that, it will anticipate when a user is about to click through to a page and will preload the contents of this page beforehand. So it will speed up the site even more. There's another good image compression app called Short Pixel. It's very inexpensive and it's very fast. It's the best in market so far from what we tested here at Overdose. So those are probably the two additional things I would consider installing on the site and implementing on the site to, again, further speed up the site. Other technical recommendations is breadcrumbs. Not so much for Scratch, because Scratch is quite a small and lean website, but for Off the Leash, I would consider introducing a breadcrumb navigation there, just to both help users, but also Google to navigate back and forth from page to page, and also help Google understand the relationship of articles to sections of the website.
Sure.
Scratch is flawless, but when it comes to offtheleash.com.au, your images needs a bit more optimization. It's missing alt tags here and there. That's the only thing I could fault Off the Leash there. When it comes to content, man, kudos to Wendy, your head of content. Content is really well written. The articles are well researched. It has good internal linking back and forth between Scratch and Off the Leash, which is great. There's a lot of referencing to authority sources and stuff like that as well, which is really great for what we call EAT, so expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. Siloing of the content is a little bit broken. So you invest a lot of time and effort into building up the breed section. but most of the content is nested under /dog-breeds, the URL slug. But then the main landing page is dog breeds profiles slug. So sort of the relationship there is slightly broken. So I think if you were to massage that and switch that around, that's going to help Google understand.
Yeah, like a custom template to give that category a specific layout, different than the other ones. But
that's right.
Be able to integrate it into the archive and a structure outside.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what you guys use for landing page building, but site origin is actually quite good. It's quite lightweight and quite flexible and allowing you to build different landing pages there. So yeah, so that's the siloing of the dog breed section is a little bit broken. And I think you would understand and realize that most of the pet food retailers leverage breed profiles to generate top of the funnel traffic, which is why you've done the same. So I think the content is there. It just needs to be rearranged so that it's more impactful from an SEO perspective. Another thing that's missing from the breed sections or the breed articles is internal linking between the different breed types. So Pet Circle and Pet Barn does this really, really well, where if you're reading an article about Pomeranian, for example, after the article, it will link to other small dog breeds as well, because if you're in a mindset of looking for a small dog, you want to research other small dogs as well. So we just allow that internal linking from an SEO perspective to, pass the SEO juice, as you call it, between those similar pages. But also it will help guide the user through that journey to go, I've read about Pomeranian now, what other similar type of dog breeds can I research next? So just allow that little user journey and the pathway there. You've started to invest in guides, which is fantastic. So guides are, for people who don't know, they're slightly more evergreen. They target long tail. They don't really expire. It's not like a blog post where to bring your dog this summer, where it just lives for that summer and that's it will be relevant for that period of time. But guides tend to be evergreen. So you started to launch with the puppy guide, where you've collaborated with the Johnston Street vet and also a dog behavioral person up in Bondi. So great use of, authority there to contribute to that piece of content. So I would like to see more of that. That's how you build up more credibility. Like I said, Scratch is under indexing on product depth, but investing in content is where you will win. And investing in those long tail traffic to the website is where you will win. So I think if you were to, I'd like to use tools like SEMrush to spy on competitors to see what they're ranking well for, what's generating traffic. When I send you the document, there's a screenshot of Pet Circle and Pet Barn of what's actually generating them traffic there. So that is something that we can share with Wendy to go, all right, we've done the puppy guide now. What other guides do we need to build out and how do we need to build it? What has other people written about that we can 10x what they've done and make it better, more sexy, better checklists, better downloadable stuff, stuff like that. You're nodding your head, so I think you're on the right track there, really.
Yeah, for sure. They take a long time doing them properly, though.
They do. But I think it's an investment, right? It's a very slow burn, but when it works, and it will continue to drive you traffic month in, month out. Now, I want to talk a little bit about link building. Mick Fanning, investor, great, fantastic. He has a blog and he has a website. He has multiple websites, actually. We should hit him up to go, hey, can we have a bit of a link from your profile page on all your different blogs and properties to say, hey, we've invested in Scratch. That's going to give the website a little bit of a boost. I've mentioned getting a mention from Mick Fanning's Wikipedia page. If we can get that updated, there'll be ace. I think you can leverage more of your partnerships. I think you've done really well with the Johnson Street Vet and also the Bondi Behaviorists. The Bondi Behaviorists have actually featured you in their affiliates landing page, where they've, you've given them a little discount code to feature Scratch on their website. If you can 10x that again, find out, dog behavioral services in different major cities and do the same for all your major cities, I think you get a pretty good coverage, and that's how you would increase number of links pointing to a website legitimately there. Another thing that is worth I guess, trolling through most frequently asked questions about dogs and how to care for a dog is actually Reddit. So I spent a lot of time in the Puppy 101 Reddit the subreddit there. Oh, there's so many, I guess, naive pet parents out there who really don't know what they're doing. So I think instead of monkey see, monkey do, following what Heels and Pedigree are doing in terms of their content strategy, I think you can mine content and data from that subreddit and just sort the subreddit by the number of likes and the number of comments there, and then start getting some ideas about real life issues that people are actually dealing with, and coming up with content to help solve the issue. Back to the breed section. So breed selectors are a link magnet. So people don't like to read through a lot of content to find the perfect breed for their lifestyle and for where they live and stuff like that. So people like Animal Planet, Pedigree, all the big pet food retailers tend to have a breed selector. I think it's a simple quiz that you just fill in a few questions. You already have that for your pet food. I think you should consider building something to power your breeds article as well. Just something simple. And if you make it slightly different from what all the others have, I think it's a really good link asset that will then you can use to promote, and then people will start linking to it naturally because it's so useful and so easy to use. Yeah, so Animal Planet, for example, has a breed selector page. I don't know why they have Animal Planet has that, but that one tool itself, that one landing page, is actually attracting about 1.6 thousand referring domains to that one tool. Pedigree has the same, and it has about 437 referring domains. So you can see the power of having what we call a linkable asset, something useful, a tool that users will bookmark and use time and time again and share with their mates. Sure. There. Another great opportunity for linkable asset is to identify websites that curate and write about dog food. I think there's a lot of affiliate marketers out there who are passionate about promoting different brands. I think you should identify who they are and then do a separate affiliate deal with them, similar to how you've done it with Bondi Behaviorists, just to amplify the number of I guess other websites talking about Scratch on your behalf, and also promoting your brand, and also benchmarking your pet food against other people's pet food as well. Industry links, you're already part of the 1% Giving Back to the Planet initiative. I think you could also submit Scratch to Australian Made. They do have a platform there, and you can get a nice little logo bag. That's the little flying kangaroo, but also getting featured on their website as part of a premium Australian-made pet food brand, and then more importantly, the link back to the website. And then there's a lot, I'm sure you know as well, there's a lot of like retail associations out there that you can join as well to get Scratch featured in their directory, and also get a little bit more recognition in terms of a badge of honor that we're part of their association there. So those are probably the link opportunities I would explore for Scratch. And like I said, it was quite boring auditing the site because you guys have done a great job at optimizing your content. Your content is by far your biggest asset. Technical wise, I think you're great. We just have a few tweaks there in terms of page speed and a few other things there. And the only thing that my bugbear was the two properties being separate. I think if you were to merge it together, but we don't have to talk about why the business decision there. I think that's your IP, you can keep that. But from an SEO perspective, I would have merged them together there for you. Yeah, sure. That's all I have. Over to Vinny.
Thanks, Jay. Very, very interesting stuff there. But hi, my name's Vincent. I'm one of the performance marketing directors here at Overdose. And thanks again for giving us access to your Google Ads account. Probably a pretty similar story where there's no real major fundamental errors here. So kudos to the team for running a really nice, tidy account. What we have kind of looked at, though, is just some of the maybe more strategic angles that we can look at taking to try and help scale the performance. So fundamentally, just to give everyone kind of an idea of what's running here, it's mostly search. There's a bit of display, a bit of video. There's no Google Shopping running. So I think fundamentally that's an area. It's a bit of a difficulty given that you're in that subscription game. You can't quite run a Google Shopping campaign here. But given that you do have the off the leash separate site that has product pages on it, there might be something that you can look at doing there, because at the end of the day, Google Shopping does take up so much real estate in the search results now. And it is
actually,
really prominent space for people to be discovering brands and, identifying people who are in that space for relevant searches. Yeah. So you're going to say?
Yeah, we actually encountered that ourselves, trying to submit the Google, the feed and get Google Shopping, and then getting denied with, that we don't sell anything with subscription. So we made a one-off site and then gave that a product feed to just for that, but just couldn't get the ads showing in the feed. Couldn't get more than 20 impressions sort of in a month.
Yeah. Okay. It's a challenge, but I think it's worthwhile just kind of having that, continued approach of just going again and again and again. How do we just look at bringing this into play? So I think it'll open up a whole new category of different users, and it's such a big part of people's discovery and acquisition at the moment as well. So fundamentally, everything looks really healthy in terms of, return on ad spend. I think it looks like you've got quite a well-performing fundamental setup across different campaigns and different keywords that you're targeting through there. So it's all looking pretty good. At the moment, though, you are only appearing for about 16% of the available impressions for your targeted keywords. So search impression share is fairly low, and I think that represents the opportunity. So you've got pretty much another 84% opportunity to start growing and scaling and driving up more business through there as well. So at the moment, the biggest reason for that is your bidding settings, and your ads are effectively appearing too far down the page, maybe even on page 2 or page 3, and they're just not really getting picked up at the moment. So really having a look at thinking, can we, sacrifice a little bit of our return on ad spend to appear higher up the page, maybe bidding a little bit more aggressively to try and get a few more top positions there and capture some more search impression share. I think that's probably a conversation that, internally looking at your subscription model, you might have to start thinking, is it okay for us to actually have a higher acquisition cost, knowing that customer who has a good time with our product is coming back again and again and again, and is actually quite, a valuable customer over their lifetime. So I think maybe having a little review of what the value of that person is, and maybe having a look at your acquisition costs, you might realize that you can go a bit more aggressive and try and operate maybe at a smaller margin, but getting a lot more revenue through the door as well. Because I think at the moment, looking at your campaign budgets, you're really only spending about 10% of the available daily budget that you've got set up in the accounts. So you've got quite a large budget, but there's only a small amount due to that kind of restrictive bidding that's being used there. So that's probably our first thing to just have a think about is Google Shopping. And then off the back of that, fundamentally, can you be operating things at a little bit more of an aggressive pace? Keywords wise, one of the interesting things we found, and I know this is a bit of a contentious issue, there was no branded search campaign set up, and there's, actively in the account, there's a lot of times where I can see a lot of negatives have been added in for scratch pet food throughout the account as well. So there's always going to be a bit of a discussion around, is this good for us to bid on our own terms and things like that. I guess having a look around this morning as well and checking up on a few searches, I did find a case where there was an ad that appeared above your organic listing. So I looked at scratch pet food, and then there was an ad that appeared for a different business. So it's just a case of thinking, do we want anyone to leech our customer away from us? Do we want someone who's trying to find us potentially either, by mistake clicking on the wrong ad, or even, on purpose starting to identify and look at who else is in the market as well. It's such a cheap thing to operate, it's a really cheap cost. So it's always worth, considering what's the negative outcome versus the positive outcome there. And I think because you do have pet food in your name, it's actually a bit of a unique circumstance where technically anyone who's bidding on pet food, Google might throw into the mix every now and then if someone's looking for scratch. So it's a bit annoying that Google does that, but it might just be worthwhile thinking, is it better for us just to capture that and own that space a little bit more rather than kind of leave that risk? And then the other side of that is if someone's looking for Scratch, organically you're not there yet. So if I look for Scratch, I can find a programming language. I can find
that
a
program
bunch
language.
of different terms. Yeah.
Give a bugbear though.
Exactly. And one of the ways that we would recommend maybe like as a first step to get around that, because you might find that bidding on Scratch is going to give you a really bad outcome with all these people looking for a programming language. This is where you'd use remarketing lists for search ads, or RLSA. And what that means is you can actually just say, anyone who's been on my website in the past year, if they look for Scratch, I want my ad to appear. If they are the ones who are looking for, or even, opening it up to things like pet lovers or people who like dogs. If they are Googling Scratch, I feel pretty confident that they want to find our website. So really start to think about, how do I bring in an audience strategy into trying to help solve some of these problems here? And maybe that can be the first step. And likewise with, Scratch pet food, maybe just think it's an RLSA game at the moment. Let's just exclude or include certain audiences that we really want to try and help find our ads there. Keywords wise was really good though. So I think you've got a good approach going on. I'd probably suggest really trying to double down on what's working well. So again, having a think about going more aggressive. If you've got the grain-free dog foods, a really strong suit for you guys, the subscription dog food. So some of those areas, the conversion rate's looking really healthy, really nice cost per conversion. Maybe think, can we just try and own that space and, tick that off the box, and then you can work your way down to something more generic, like just dog food or online dog food further down the track there. But otherwise than that, keywords are looking pretty good. Structure of the account though, I would probably have a think about maybe what we quite often find is people have got too many keywords in an ad group. And I think there were certain ad groups there where you had probably about 30 or 40 keywords, and there was a bit of difference between them. So some of them were things like the, premium dog food, and then others were more around like healthy dog food, or how to lose weight for my dog and things like that. So when there's a lot of variance there, this is an opportunity to send people through to a better, more suitable landing page. And throughout some of the ad groups, there's just kind of too many different topics trying to be covered off through there. So we'd look at just breaking those out into their themes and making sure that you can write your ad copy a bit more tailored to that. There are some really good examples of that in the account already being done. So it's just a case of maybe tidying it up and just making it a little bit more consistent throughout there as well. In that respect, the ad copy was really strong. It was informative, it was compelling, and it provided a lot of unique selling points. So if I was someone, looking through your ads against competition, I know from the get-go what you guys do, what makes you different, what your brand values are. So that was really good. You also did have the current best practice, which is 2 expanded text ads and 1 responsive search ad per ad group. So really, really good job through the ad copy section there. We also had a look at quality score. So quality score is Google's way of evaluating how well set up your ads are, but also how relevant your business is, and how well set up your website is for those searches as well. Overall, the average quality score is about 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good result. There's definitely no real red flags there. There was probably about 1/3 of keywords that were less than that 7 out of 10. So I'll just have a bit of a printout of that. I would have a look at, out of those keywords that are scoring low, which ones are valuable to us, which ones can we actually maybe have a bit of a think about sending them to a different landing page, rewriting the ads. And then, if you can make some improvements there, then effectively Google's going to give you a discount on your cost per click. So it's going to reward you with a really high quality keyword or high quality ad account with a bit of a reduction there. So definitely worth kind of always having that in the back of your mind as something to work on. I think we've, also just having a look at the structure, there was some dynamic search ad groups set up within the account, but they're also operating within the same campaign as standard search. And what that means is it can make it a bit difficult to control just exactly what's going on within that space. So there was a lot of variance, within that dynamic search. It was covering like just a very short tail dog food type searches, and then all the way to very long-tailed things. I probably prefer to have that in its own campaign, just so that you can, from the high-level view, you can really understand a little bit more around what's the dynamic search doing, as opposed to our grain, dog food keywords or things like that you might really want to have that domination in that space, rather than when you look behind the scenes, the budget's actually being eaten up by the dynamic search, and you can't quite control your search impression share in that space as well. So maybe just have a think about pulling those out into their own campaigns. And then just finally, recommendations around audiences and demographics. So, you know, earlier we just spoke about how we can use RLSA a little bit more to help segment things, but we can also, just having a look at the moment, you do have some audience layering for pet lovers. So Google's got first-party audience data available, and you've included that into the campaign. Those people are doing really well. So they're on average, their return on ad spend is about 75% higher than an average user. So what you can do there is add a bidding adjustment to those people. So at the moment, there's no bidding adjustments done there. So what you're telling Google then is, I'm actually really happy with this performance. I want to go more aggressive for pet lovers. If it's pet lovers Googling online dog food, I want to appear, you know, really prominently there. So go have a think about going in, adding, you know, maybe like a plus 50, like something pretty aggressive, or even like plus 100% bidding adjustment, and then seeing just if that ends up getting you more business in those areas there. And then the final recommendation is, you know, that same logic, applying that to your remarketing audiences. So add in your people who visited the website in the last, you know, 90 days onto all of your search campaigns, and then put a bidding adjustment there, so that if someone who has bought the subscription, you know, a couple of months back is now looking again for online dog food, that you appear. And, you know, just to help reduce churn and to help increase that customer lifetime value, it's really good to just make sure if that person's coming back and having looked for something, we want to be pretty high up the page there. We want to be ranking high up the top. But yeah, so that's the kind of the range of things that we looked at. Like I was saying earlier, fundamentally doing a really good job. The results looking really, really strong. But I think there's just a few things just to think about, kind of from that fundamental strategy of what's profitable for us, all the way through to, you know, how do we just get a little bit more aggressive in some of those terms that we're really, you know, strong in and converting really well in. Yeah, that's the Google Ads side of things.
Cool, super interesting. A lot I learned there.
No worries. But yeah, we'll
Any questions for us, Mike?
Yeah, not really. Probably the one that remains to SEO, I think, is sort of keyword cannibalization, where you've got something like dog food, where you know, essentially it's set on every page of the site, and we've got we've got within our URL structure as scratchpetfood.com.au/dogfood/ the recipe name, and so that dog food page and the homepage really, I think, do a lot of, and even the compare dog food, we see the rankings for different things switch from one page gets favored for dog food to another, and it just like jumps around, and it's just like Google has a hard time. But having said that, you know, our homepage and our comparison page, we're comparing dog food. Our homepage is, we're a dog food company. But we don't want to. We basically, you know, we don't want to make our homepage all about, you know, dog food as a keyword that you just keep repeating for Google. Do you have any thoughts on how to handle keyword cannibalization, where, you know, I guess your whole company sort of specializes in this one thing that, you know, is a pretty valuable, you know, high volume keyword?
So in the instance of having cannibalization internally, where both pages warrants, you know, being live, then it's all about tweaking. So there's SEMrush has a really good product to help with that kind of stuff in terms of content optimization. Yoast it's good, but I think it's quite rudimentary. So there's two core products out there that's really, really good for in situations like that, where you need to optimize for one or the other and then de-optimize the other version without actually removing or consolidating both of them together. So as I mentioned, SEMrush has a really good product. Otherwise, Surfer SEO is also another really good product. So Surfer SEO does, it taps into natural language processing. So it will give you ideas on, I don't want to jam dog food on the homepage numerous times. What are the variations of keywords that say the same thing that associated really, really strongly with the word dog food that I can then optimize the homepage to rank better for. So those are probably the two things I would look at. And then your comparison page, man, that page is so powerful. It's so good. So I think you definitely don't want to consolidate. I think keep them separate, but use a tool like Surf SEO or SEMrush just to help you optimize the content. Like those websites give you free trials, man. Just do it for 14 days, get what you need, and then cancel it. They're gonna hate me for that, but yeah.
Any other questions?
I think that was my only question, but that was really interesting, and yeah, definitely learned a lot. And keeping us on our toes, giving us a bit of work to do now.
Very cool. Appreciate you joining in. I guess maybe now that we've gone through the past 40 minutes or so, it's interesting. We've been doing these sort of weekly chats with merchants and tech partners for the past several months, and it's always been more about the business, the background, the culture, and we've gotten some feedback from folks in the audience saying, "Hey, we'd love to go deeper. We'd love to understand. Now that we've now that we know what they're trying to achieve, what are they actually doing to achieve it?" So we thought we'd sort of do this pilot. So appreciate you being our I don't want to say guinea pig, being our pilot merchant for this. These are
easy on me.
Core services that we provide, and in this context, we said, hey, let's take some some applicants or submissions from from folks who would like to have an audit done of their technologies and their approach. And normally we go through this with clients to have in-depth conversations around it. And I think having Jason and Vincent dive in with really just having access to your back end, it was sort of a fascinating project to dive in on as a team and understand what insights can be gained just from the data without much more context. So really appreciate Jason and Vincent, you guys taking the time to dive in on Scratch. And so that anyone watching, by all means, we will be doing these regularly. So if you are a merchant who is looking for some advice and insights on your approach for performance marketing and SEO, drop me a DM or in the Overdose LinkedIn, give us a note, and we'll reach out and see if we can set something up. So any final thoughts, Jason and Vincent, if you had to give grades, A, B, C, D, E, or A, B, C, D, I guess F. How would you grade it? How would you grade the Scratch SEO setup?
I would say it's an A-, not an A+. I think it's already there. Like I said, usually I find websites, I tear them apart, but I could not tear Scratch apart because it's very hard to screw up a WordPress setup. And I think Scratch has maintained it really, really well. I think the customization that you built into the platform hasn't bloated WordPress at all. So I think you've done a really good job at doing that.
So would you say between WordPress, the Yoast plugin that Mike and his team are using, and sort of their consistency there has paid dividends versus potentially another platform where it's a bit more complex, be it a Magento, Shopify, BigCommerce, where there may be some other nuances to the platforms that require additional,
Yeah, look, I think it's the customization, because Scratch is a very different business model. It's not like PDP page, add to cart, checkout, done. So there's a lot of heavy customization going on with its checkout process. And usually when you introduce something that is not native to the platform, it tends to code bloat, slows the website down, and you have a lot of bugs that conflict with one another. But I don't think Scratch has that issue whatsoever. Everything was just really smooth, and page speed, as I said, was, man, you're above average of all the different websites that I've seen. So well done there.
And Vincent, what would your grade be?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I was thinking around the kind of B+ to A- range. So I'd probably say, given the type of business and that Google Shopping part being probably not quite right, definitely, strong A+. Strong A-. There's definitely a few little things I think you could do to just capture more of what you're doing at the moment. I think that's the kind of goal. We've got a good foundational approach going. We know it works. How do we actually just kind of take the next few steps here and really boost up our performance? You know, I think there's, you know, I think it really hits the mark in the industry and the product, and that approach to people's pets is spot on. So lots of potential here just to kind of take those next few steps and really capture that industry.
Awesome. Again, anyone interested out there in having us run through their site, have Jason and Vincent go through it, by all means, drop me a DM via LinkedIn or email me at andrew@overdose.digital, and we'll take a look and see if we can set something up. Until then, Mike, thanks very much. Jason, Vincent, as always, thanks very much. Everyone have for those of you who might be celebrating Thanksgiving or taking any holiday, enjoy and have a good cyber weekend, and hope everyone succeeds through this and the holidays.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, guys.